making that stuff.
Well, the tree at Lindner's was just so tremendous because Sterling Lindner's, we used to go up to about the 4th or 5th floor and look down on it, and it was so impressive to our little kid. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Still on the board. Thank you.
Every Friday for the past 13 years, Doris Belovich, Janine Seifold, Laverne Lentz, and Mary Ann Catlett have been meeting at the Tri-City Senior Center in Middleburg Heights. They play some bridge, they share a laugh, and they reminisce about the Cleveland of days gone by.
We could buy a double-dip ice cream cone at Cook's drugstore for a nickel. But if we wanted to really stretch it, we would get one dip for 3 cents, save the 2 cents, and then my dad would give us a penny so that in a couple of days we could get another cone. Really. The steak was 3 pounds, round steak, 3 pounds for $1 at Kroger's, which was across the street from our barbershop. Bread at Sadowski Bakery was 3 cents a loaf. I remember that distinctly, homemade hot bread.
I remember at that time there were many, I suppose maybe now you'd call them bums, but they rode the rails. And very often, for Sunday dinner, one of those men would be at our table. My mother, we didn't have that kind of food, but whatever was on our table, my mother and dad shared it with one of these people,
My father used to make wine and root beer and beer. And if he didn't do it right, you'd be eating in the kitchen and you'd hear pop in the basement because the bottles are exploding.
Every Sunday we would have to go visit our relatives on the east side, and we'd get all dressed up with our hats and our gloves and our little purses, and my mother and dad would take us all the way to the east side. Now that was hours. You'd have to take like 3 or 4 streetcars, and you had to get a transfer to go from one to the other. We'd go way out to Collinwood. Now that was pretty far.
Streetcars. Today you'd have to visit a museum like Trolleyville, USA in Olmsted Township to ride one. But back in the 1930s and 40s, they were the last word in transportation. The first electric streetcar hit the streets of Cleveland in 1889. And by the height of their popularity during the Second World War, most everyone was riding the rails of the old Cleveland transit system. As Clevelanders went about the routine tasks of their everyday lives, the old streetcars welcomed them with the kind of fine craftsmanship that is rare in today's age of fiberglass and plastic. Artisans at Cleveland's G.C. Coleman Car Company crafted the walls and handrails out of rich cherry wood. The streetcars featured bouncy rattan seats and fare boxes with a little stool nearby for the conductor. But collecting fares wasn't the conductor's only duty. Each conductor was also responsible for stoking the coal stove that heated the streetcar.
And my father tells a great story, one of his favorites. In as late as 1949, he had a gentleman visit from outside Cleveland who got off the train at the Pennsylvania station at East 55th and Euclid and took the streetcar from there down to the terminal where he worked. And the gentleman got off the elevator, and my dad was standing there, and he had kind of a startled look on his face, and my dad inquired as to why he was looking like this. He said, "Did that streetcar have a coal stove in 1949? All the other cities had gotten rid of these things years before, and the Cleveland transit system soldiered on with these old coal stoves, and they finally ran their last in 1951. My memories are mostly of the early 50s on Euclid Avenue when I would go down at Christmas time with my mother to Sterling Linder Davis to see the big tree, and we would always take the streetcar. And to her, the tree was the big thing. To me, the streetcar ride was the big thing.
Blaine Hayes fell in love with trolleys as a boy, and the study of Cleveland's streetcar system is his life's passion. So I guess it's no coincidence that he works for the RTA. He recently published a book on the history of Cleveland's transit system.
There were things about the cars, there were aromas, there were sensations, there were sights about the old trolleys that are missing today in a aluminum fast-paced bus that rushes along a freeway. It just takes away also the people thing of getting together with other people in the morning and having conversations, where in a private automobile, you miss that.
When you talk about streetcars in Cleveland, there's probably no topic that comes up more often than the subway on the second deck of the Detroit Superior Bridge. The last streetcar ran through that subway in 1954, and the tunnel has been sealed up ever since. But to this day, Greater Clevelanders fondly recall riding through those subterranean tunnels near Public Square on streetcars that are now just phantom ghosts.
And I have distinct memories of climbing aboard a streetcar on Madison or on Detroit or on Clifton, and for 10 cents going downtown, which was a great deal in those days. And I remember how those cars used to shake, rattle, and roll down the street. And when we got to the high-level bridge, we would look through the windows down at the Cuyahoga Valley, the Cuyahoga River, and just in my mind, I wondered, well, what on earth is holding this bridge up if I can see through down to the river?
Another thing that used to happen all the time was the high-level bridge subway had ramps that led down into the subway, and people would drive down in there constantly at night because they couldn't see. They didn't realize that it wasn't paved, and they would be driving on the ties and going up and down like this. So they were, the Cleveland Transit was constantly pulling with a crane. They would be constantly pulling cars out of the subway portals. So those were some of the things that happened in those days that were just part of everyday life in the 30s that it's lost today. You don't see it.
Another thing you just don't see today is kids catching a free ride. But it was a common sight back in the heydays of the Cleveland trolley system.
See, streetcars used to protrude in the back a little bit, something like a bumper. And then sometimes they'd have another coach where they could hook on. But when they have another, you could stand on that buckle there. We could catch that streetcar and ride all the way as far as we could go.
Yes, kids used to have all kinds of adventures on the streetcars. A favorite experiment for many young boys was pulling the trolley line off the overhead cable to see exactly what would happen.
So to prove that indeed the trolley was actually powering this car, we had to pull the trolley off the wire. So I was running through Lakewood quite close to my home, and just started up, and a number of us got behind it and pulled the rope, and the trolley came off the wire, and made all kinds of sparks. It scared the bejeebers out of us, and the car stopped. And therefore, I knew for sure that that's where the power was coming from.
Streetcars were a fixture in every Cleveland neighborhood for the first half of the 20th century. So what led to the demise of the cheery yellow trolleys? One theory involves a decision made by a General Motors executive in 1925. The story goes that this executive wanted to find a way to boost automobile sales. And so General Motors bought up railway companies throughout the country, determined to dismantle the streetcar industry. But that's only part of the story.
There was also the factor of economics. The maintenance of the rails in the street, the overhead wires, was very expensive. Along came a bus which had no rails, which had no wire, no need for substations. It carried almost as many people. And instead of buying new streetcars and refurbishing the railway system, they just decided to go cheap and buy the buses.
So in the early 1950s, one by one, the streetcars were replaced by modern buses. And on January 24th, 1954, Cleveland's last streetcar ran down Madison Avenue. And when it brought its passengers to their final destination on that cold winter night, it also brought with it the end of an era.
Well, we had a nice home on Washington Boulevard, a bungalow right near Cottage Grove, but in those days there was no such thing as natural gas heat, and we heated our home with coal. And I have a very clear memory of the coal delivery car frequently coming into our driveway on Washington Boulevard. We had an opening, a chute, on the driveway, in which the coal would be shoveled from the truck down the chute with a cloud of black smoke that was all over the place, and it would wind up in the basement of our home. We take it for granted now. All you do is to raise a thermostat in your home, and it's nice and warm and comfortable. But it wasn't that way. We didn't have any thermostats there. You couldn't control the heat by a thermostat. The only way you could control it was by shoveling some more coal on the fire and all the things that brought about. So that made it a pretty exciting experience. And frequently the same company which supplied coal in the wintertime supplied ice in the summertime. Very few, if any of us who lived in Cleveland Heights had refrigerators in those days, had electric refrigerators. We had ice boxes. The Iceman was a strong man who had tongs, and he had an ice pick. And he would go to each of his customers, find out whether the person wanted 25 pounds or 50 pounds or maybe even 75 pounds or 100 pounds. And then he'd go back to his ice truck. He'd take off the tarp which covered all the ice to keep it from melting in the summertime, and he'd take his pick, and he'd pick out the appropriate size of ice, put his tongs on it, and put it over his shoulder. He had a leather thing he wore on his shoulder because otherwise the ice would be darn heavy and cold on his shoulder. Put it on his shoulder, then he went up to the customer. It was at that point that I and a few of my other friends would always trail the ice truck around, because in the process of using that ice pick to cut off the piece of ice that he needed, he always left some slivers of ice there. And we'd love to grab a sliver of ice and to suck it. That was our popsicle without any flavoring, I guess you might say.
When we were all a good deal younger, Christmas time wasn't just a hectic few weeks of dashing from store to store to find the perfect gift for Aunt Flora, or racing the clock to get the holiday cards in the mail before the first of the year. Instead, through the dreamy innocence of a child's eyes, we saw the holiday season as an enchanted and magical time, a time filled with secret whispers, sweet anticipation, and joyful surprises wrapped in glittering silver and scarlet. And for most of us, the bustling excitement of Christmas time was capped by a traditional journey to downtown Cleveland to see the city decked out in her holiday finest.
I remember every year at Christmas time, we lived on the west side, and we used to take the rapid transit downtown, which at that time was called CTS, and we used to go over the flats area and come through to downtown at the bottom of the terminal, and we'd walk up the terminal to go Christmas shopping, and all the windows would have the little figures moving back and forth and going back and forth and everything. Always the last stop was Higbee's, because it had the Twigby shop where the little kids could go in, and they had a whole area we could shop by ourselves. They had a little door there where only small children go in and shop, and we'd go and get our presents wrapped, and we'd take them out, and our parents would never know what we had, and then we'd have like a secret for Christmas to take home.
Higbee's, I might say, used to have this little restaurant, the Silver Grill, on the 10th floor, and it was quite an event for the children to go down there, because they used to serve little chicken dinners in stoves.
When we wanted to marvel at a breathtaking Christmas tree, there was only one place to go, and that was the old Sterling Linder store.
Well, the tree at Linder's was just so tremendous, because Sterling Linder's, we used to go up to about the 4th or 5th floor and look down on it, and it was so impressive to our little kid. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And the huge ornaments that they had on it were special. They had great big balls and clowns and things like that.
And no downtown Christmas excursion was complete without taking the elevator up to the Winter Wonderland on Halley's 7th floor to pay a visit to Mr. Jingling.
He was a storyteller, and he would tell all these different stories to the little boys and girls, and he would be the key holder, and he would always have this key, this big ring of keys, and he would give it out. He would give the kids a key.
And each year the key was different, and what you could do is take it home and put it on your Christmas tree, and year to year you'd have these memories of going downtown.
Dan Burnett is the manager of the Penitentiary Glen Nature Center in the Lake County Metro Parks. For months now, he's been planning a special exhibit that will recreate the Christmas magic of Halley's 7th floor.
These window dolls greeted many, many people as they went downtown, and they saw their wonderful, fanciful, decorated holiday windows at Halley's. These windows were actually, they started to design them back in May, and it took them about 6 months to create these windows. And they debuted, they opened up the curtains the day after Thanksgiving. And many children, so that's what I remember, is going downtown and looking up at the window and just imagining what you're going to get for Christmas. The doorman's hat we have is actually from the doorman. His first name was Ernie, and it didn't matter what walk of life you were from, you would always be greeted with a smile by Ernie at Halley's. He would open up the door for you and welcome you to the holiday season. Christmas is what but memories. People used to flock downtown to see Halley's, and the Mr. Jingling character brought people there. And I believe that from the people that came to the exhibit last year, the outpouring of their emotions and their past memories and their stories, people like to keep the past alive. And that's what Christmas is. Christmas is made of memories, no matter how old you are.
I'm Mr. Jingling, how I ting-a-ling, keeper of the key. On Halley's 7th floor, we'll be looking for you to turn the key.
Cleveland Memories will continue in a few moments with a look back at the national air races, the old movie houses, and much, much more. But now, take a minute to help make programs like this possible. Call WVIZ with your pledge of financial support.
Much more is still to come your way. How often have you already said, oh, you remember that? I was saying to Julie, I remember going up to the top of the Sterling Linder Company, looking down at that tree. I mean, the first thing I wanted to do as a little kid was get up to the 4th or 5th floor, like the person you interviewed did, to look down on it. Or I remember my family always talking about the paper eggs man, kind of like the Iceman on the near west side who used to come around collecting paper and rags. Is it bringing back incredible memories for you this evening? If it is, we invite you to join with WVIZ tonight. Become a member of Channel 25. If you are a member already, consider giving an additional gift to the station. Get involved in the television station that's making this all possible. And when you become a $90 member tonight, we're going to send this to you. You can't buy this in the stores. It's not available anywhere except right here at WVIZ. It's the Cleveland Memories videotape. All of these wonderful images that you're seeing tonight are going to be on that tape. You can have one of these for your $90 pledge to WVIZ. We have a very special premium tonight because a lot of people are wanting to get 2 of these, one for themselves and one to send, as I said earlier, out to Aunt Minnie and Uncle Bill out there in Arizona, who lived in Cleveland all their lives before they moved down to Florida. And you can get 2 videotapes for your $120 pledge. And all of these dollars are going to support non-commercial television here in Cleveland.
Well, Ken, what's wonderful about this program is that this program was made possible by member dollars. This is a locally produced program that celebrates Cleveland's heritage. And it's all made possible by your pledge dollars. When you call tonight, you're going to get a great thank you gift. It's the VHS of the program. But remember, your pledge dollars will also help WVIZ go out and create another Cleveland Memories show. If we can raise enough money to do that tonight, all kinds of memories are coming your way, and they're all made possible because of pledge dollars. Don't go away. We've got the national air races and television and entertainment coming up. But right now, we need to hear from you so that we can make more programs like this possible.
Some of the television that's coming up a little bit is really incredible. Some of the great old television programs that you'll remember. You'll go, oh, my, I'd forgotten about that one. You know, some stations called their program Things That Aren't There Anymore. And it really is so true. Many of the things that you'll be seeing, the images you'll be seeing, are items that just aren't around anymore, but that make Cleveland what it is today. Give us a call. We're standing by right now waiting to hear from you with your pledge of support.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm counting 7, 8, 9, 10. I want to see how many 840,000 is. 11,
and may
12,
I ask again,
13,
why?
14. Because WVIZ is viewed in more than 840,000 different homes every single week. That's well over 1 million people. 15, 16, 17, 840,000 and rising. 23, 24, 25, 26. Yep. And only 1 in 16 viewers are actually members. 57, 58. Yes. 1 in 16. 17, 18, 19. No, it's not. Considering the excellent programs on Channel 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Yep. 29, 32, 33. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And that's something we need to change and begin changing right now. Only 1 out of 16 people make this great programming possible, and what you're watching tonight is typical of the kinds of programs that you can see here on WVIZ. Now, if you're getting a busy signal, please keep calling. We're going to be taking your pledges as fast as we can all night long. Don't go away. You're going to want to get your calls in. We're back here with our good friends from Mally's, the candy company that everyone here in northeastern Ohio knows. They've been so supportive of WVIZ. Bill and Adele Malley have been supporters of Channel 25 for a long time. Their staff is here tonight helping WVIZ take all these pledges. It's going to be a great night of television that you, as individuals in northeastern Ohio, are making possible. Quality programming made possible here on Channel 25 by a community who cares about quality. It's really that simple. If you care about having this kind of television on the air, then we need you with us here. Phones are going wild in the studio tonight as people are calling to get that great thank you gift. It's the Cleveland Memories videotape. Everything that you'll see tonight will be on this videotape for you, and you might want to just consider pledging $90 and getting one, or add $30 to your pledge. Make it a $120 pledge, and we'll send you 2 of the videotapes, and that's pretty tremendous because so many people, and you know this, have moved down to like Florida area. People have retired down to the Florida area, and all of the images you're seeing tonight are the images that we all remember. I'm about 50 years old. Not quite a couple years I'll be there, and I remember all these. And if you're 60, 70, maybe 80 years old, this is bringing back incredible memories to you of bygone times of this wonderful community of northeastern Ohio that we live in. What makes this community wonderful is the kind of images that you're seeing today. So rush to your telephone right now and give us a call. Julie, things are going terrific over here.
Well, Kent, what makes this community wonderful is the way that people get involved with projects just like this one. And right now, all of the phones are off the hook with you responding to this kind of programming and saying, yes, I want a copy of the VHS, and I want to get involved to make more programs like this possible. Thank you if you've called in. If you've called in and got a busy signal, keep trying. Don't be discouraged. Be encouraged that more people just like you are getting involved with this project and calling with pledges of support. Remember, your $90 pledge will bring you the Cleveland Memories videotape that you're watching tonight, or add $30 to that and get 2 of the videotapes, one for you, one to send to a friend, a wonderful thank you gift. In addition, we've got another terrific thank you gift. You saw the information about Trolleyville, USA, where you can ride the old Cleveland streetcars. Well, they've gotten involved in this project as well, and we want to say thanks to them because they said, hey, anybody who calls in to pledge $35 or more to WVIZ, in addition to their regular thank you gift, we will send them out 4 tickets to come to Trolleyville, USA that you can use anytime throughout the year. You might want to use them for their wonderful Festival of Lights that's going on all through December, but if that doesn't work out for you, you can use those tickets anytime for the next year. So thanks to Trolleyville, USA for getting involved, and thanks to you for getting involved to make programs like this possible. As we've said, there's so much Cleveland history that we were able to pack a lot of it into this special that you're watching tonight, but there's so much more that we can cover. Will we be able to produce another Cleveland Memories program, a Cleveland Memories Part 2? We can do it if we raise the dollars needed to go out and produce another Cleveland Memories program. So get involved right now. Call with those pledges of support, and remember, if you get a busy signal, keep trying. Much more of the program is coming up, but right now we need to hear from you with a pledge of support.
Hello, I'm Leonard Nimoy. Just like you, I'm usually home watching these pledge breaks from the other side of the screen. And if you're like me, you must have thought there's got to be some other way to raise money for public television. Well, there is. Britain, Canada, and Japan all have non-commercial networks, and each one is funded by some kind of tax. It certainly takes the suspense out of fundraising, but it takes choice out of the process, too. You see, these pledge drives are a kind of reality check, a way this station finds out if the programs are meeting your expectations of what good television ought to be. Your pledge delivers the verdict. So, where do you stand? Believe me, a lot depends on your answers to that question. So use this opportunity to make your voice heard, because your public television station listens.
There are some telephones available right now. I can see one here. I can see one here. Adele Malley just hung up her telephone. There's a couple telephones back here, so there are at least 5 or 6 phones available right now in the studio. You know, as you're watching, as Julie kind of told you also, this is typical of the kind of programming that WVIZ can do more and more of. Our current members help make this program possible, and now the pledges that are coming in today will help us make Cleveland Memories 2 possible. As Julie told you, in doing the research for this program, there are literally hundreds of areas that she couldn't get into. We'd like to make a whole series out of this as we think about the good things in Cleveland. How often do we talk about, oh, the bad things that are around our world of ours today? Looking back at the great, wonderful memories is really a wonderful way of, actually right now during the holiday season, making our holidays even a little bit happier as we look back. Lots more coming your way, but we need you to go to your telephone and give us a call. Remember, all pledges $35 on up are going to receive those tickets to Trolleyville, USA, one of Cleveland's better-kept secrets. All those beautiful trolleys still preserved out there, and you can go ride on them just like you did back in the 40s and 50s. That can be yours when you pledge $35 and more. If you charge your pledge on your MasterCard, Visa, Discover, or check debit card, by charging your pledge, you'll also receive a $10 gift certificate to WVIZ Store of Knowledge out in South Park Center in Strongsville. A wonderful new store that extends public television's lifelong learning opportunities out there into the community. You'll find things for children of all ages, from 6 years old up to 96 years old. Great items are there. So when you make your $90 pledge, charge that pledge on your MasterCard or Visa, you're going to get a videotape of Cleveland memories. You're going to get a $10 gift certificate to Store of Knowledge. You're going to get passes to go ride the trolleys at Trolleyville, USA. You're going to receive a year's subscription to Avenues magazine, which will include the Channel 25 program guide. You're also going to receive WVIZ Plus card. All that, in addition to the real reason that you're pledging, is to help WVIZ make quality non-commercial programming possible here in northeastern Ohio. Nowhere but here on Channel 25 will you find great television such as Cleveland Memories. This program has been a dream of ours for about 18 months or so now here at Channel 25. Finally, we had the resources to put this together, and thank goodness we had Julie Henry to devote her time in bringing all these memories to life. Let's go back in and check in with our producer, Julie Henry.
Well, thanks, Kent. And you know, 3 months ago, this program was just a dream. Kent and I and a few other people from the station sat around a conference room table and said, let's celebrate the bicentennial. Let's put together a program of people's reminiscences, of their fond memories of Cleveland, of days gone by. So we put a promo on the air and asked you in the community to join in this project, to call in and tell us what some of your fond memories are. And the response that you gave us was overwhelming. In fact, we had so many phone calls, we didn't even get back to some of you who called in. But don't worry, we kept your names and your phone numbers because we have enough information now to do 2 Cleveland memories, 3, 4, 5. It's really limitless. There are so many memories to share that we could do a whole series of this program if we have the dollars needed to produce these programs, to go out, to talk to you in the community, to do the videotaping, to do the editing. That part of the project depends on you. You know, this is truly an example of what public television does best because this has been a community-based program. So many people have been involved in this program. The wonderful folks at Trolleyville, USA. We had people from the Lake County Metro Parks call and say, hey, we've got a Halley's exhibit. Come out and talk to us about that. We had people share with us their photographs and their private collections. We had a professor from Cleveland State University, Walter Leading, who said, come and shoot my postcard collection. You'll get a wonderful view of Cleveland as it used to be in the past. So many people have got involved. So many people have said, yes, this is a worthwhile project to do on public television. Well, that's where you can get involved right now. Let WVIZ know that you appreciate this programming, plus have a wonderful thank you gift for yourself. Remember, your $90 pledge will bring you the VHS program that you're enjoying tonight so that you can sit down with your family and enjoy this over and over again. Share some of your fond memories. Or add $30 to that. For just $120, you can get 2 VHSs, so you can keep one and send one to that brother who lives out in Arizona or California or Florida. It's a wonderful deal. And remember, all pledges of $35 or more, in addition to your thank you gift, also bring you 4 tickets to go ride the old streetcars at Trolleyville, USA. So get involved right now in this community-based project. Go to the phone with those pledges of support. And Kent, how's it going over there? I hear the phone's ringing.
Well, and we want to go back to the program. We're going to be doing that in a few minutes. We just need to get all the pledges in so no one misses any of the program. That's why we're delaying just a moment here, but we've got phones available. We want you to get your telephone call in right now. You see the sign back there, making the difference for you. That's the slogan at WVIZ, because public television and the staff here at Channel 25 devotes its whole work day and its whole broadcast week to buying and producing programs that make a difference for your life. And then you make the difference for WVIZ by becoming a member of the station. It's people like you who give WVIZ the power to grow with. But the challenge is, and you saw that number before, only 1 out of 16 of the people who enjoy WVIZ, who watch all the time, are actually supporting it. And that's a number that needs to change. Quality television depends on the community backing this television station. WVIZ will do tremendous things in the future if you just let WVIZ have the dollars to make it all possible. When you don't call, well, nothing can happen. With public support, public television can do great things. Without public support, WVIZ, quite honestly, can't do anything. So we need to keep the telephones ringing all night long during this December membership drive. WVIZ's fiscal year began on October 1st. So we're only a little over 2 months into the fiscal year. The brand new 1997 is starting in just a couple of weeks. And what's happening right now is WVIZ will be gathering the dollars and setting the tone for the year to come. And WVIZ wants to present more great programming, and we will. We'll be able to do more Cleveland Memories programs if we just have the dollars to make it all possible. So make the difference for the television station, making a difference for you. Remember again, for your $90 pledge, you'll receive the Cleveland Memories VHS video cassette of the program you're watching tonight. You'll receive the trolley tape. The trolley tape. You'll receive the trolley tickets to go out to Trolleyville and ride on the trolleys. That'll be great. You'll receive Avenues Magazine every month for a year. You'll receive the WVIZ program guide. Charge your pledge on your MasterCard, your Visa, your Discover card, and your check debit card. We'll also throw in a $10 gift certificate for WVIZ Store of Knowledge. And by the way, we do that because charge pledges are easier on us. It's more cost effective to deal with the charge. There's not the mail to go back and forth. You're also going to receive a plus card. All of that, in addition to the great programming, and add $30 to that pledge, make it $120. We'll throw in 2 videotapes. What a great deal. But the most important thing is for you to support WVIZ right now. Let's go back over to Julie.
Well, Kent, you know, it is important for you to support WVIZ right now. You saw the numbers a little bit earlier. More than 840,000 households are tuning into WVIZ now on a regular basis, but only 1 in 16 of those households actually takes that little extra step from viewership to membership. Well, if you've been putting it off, if you've wanted to become a member for a long time, now is the time to do it, because remember, your $90 pledge brings you the Cleveland Memories VHS tape. And there's so much more coming, Kent. We've got the National Air Races. So many people had fond memories of that. And so many people talked about going to matinees on a Saturday afternoon and seeing the serials or having sing-alongs with the organist playing.
I remember at holiday time, my grandfather used to take me downtown to the Hippodrome. I remember one of my fondest memories is seeing Swiss Family Robinson, however many years ago that was, on the big screen down at the Hippodrome, downtown Cleveland. It was what you did. I mean, we didn't have all the movie theaters out in the suburbs. We had
or videotapes, for that matter.
We never had videotapes.
Right.
That wasn't around at all. And you had a couple community theaters, but not the big grand theaters. I mean, what we have downtown, the wonderful theaters in Playhouse Square, were movie theaters in the early days. So we're gonna be seeing some of those also. What a great night. You know, Julie, the phones are really ringing like crazy, but I think we need to go back real soon and see part 2 of Cleveland Memories. When we come back for the next intermission, get the phones ringing right away. If you want to call during the program, feel free to do so, because WVIZ will be here and all the volunteers will be here. Just go to your telephone and let WVIZ know that we made the right decision producing Cleveland Memories. What do you say we go back?
Let's go back. Thanks for calling in.
If you prefer, mail your pledge to WVIZ, 4300 Brook Park Road, Cleveland 44134.
Well, I grew up in Berea, which was close to the airport, and the pilots would come a week before the air races, which lasted a week. So for 2 weeks, I was just in seventh heaven as these little guys would come buzzing over the house, and they're sounded like a bunch of hornets.
One of the neighbors worked down there. I was very young. And then he would take the children in the neighborhood. We'd get in his old car and go down there. And we didn't have to pay to get in because he took us where he worked. And, oh, it was just fascinating.
The National Air Races. Who can forget the excitement of this annual celebration of speed in the 1930s and 40s? For 1 week every September, we trekked out to the airport and enjoyed the thrills of the world's fastest motorsport. And even when we couldn't afford the price of admission, we still found a way to marvel at the skill and daring of the swashbuckling pilots and their magnificent flying machines.
My mother and Dad would pile us in the car, 3 of us, but we didn't go in. We went to some of the bean fields on Engle Road, and we parked the car there, and then we would watch the air races.
When the stands were built in 1929, they were built to accommodate 100,000 people. However, not everyone had the money to come to the airport and be in the stands. And as the racers went over a large part of the west side of Cleveland, People would park in parks or on streets, and many people would rent out their front yards. They would charge a quarter or 50 cents. They also would sell soda pop and hot dogs. Many people rented their homes to the pilots and some of the other people that came here. I talked to a number of people that told me as a boy I had to sleep under the dining room table because my bedroom was rented out to someone.
But it was so incredibly exciting for a 10-year-old. I mean, you had, the cars were all boxy in those days, so streamlined trains and racing planes, that's where all the action was for a little boy. And it was just marvelous watching these things, and of course the photographs of the pilots and the suave and their helmets and all these things, and they were real heroic.
They posed by the plane, and Roscoe Turner had one of these caps, these leather caps that fit there. Remember that? Yeah. And he had this mustache that I swear was painted on. It was like, or oiled or something. It was a great big thing with handlebars on it, but very dashing, very dashing.
But Roscoe was different from most pilots in that he didn't want to be seen as the average barnstorming pilot, whereas most of them wore their World War I leather flying jackets and just about anything. Roscoe created a uniform for himself. He wore riding breeches, polished boots, a blue tunic, Sam Browning belt, and a cap, and he created his own wings studded with diamonds. So he was well known. The Gilmore Oil Company sponsored him, and he wanted to be even more noticeable. So he purchased this lion cub. Everyone said you couldn't tame a lion cub, but Roscoe in fact did. And he took the lion cub virtually everywhere he went when he was flying for records, including here at the races. And there are many chambermaids that will tell you that they didn't like what the lion did in the hotel rooms. Early on, Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals contacted Roscoe and said, Roscoe, you're up there in the air, and you have that safety net of a parachute. Now, this poor lion's riding in that airplane with you, and we think the lion should have a parachute. So Roscoe said, okay, we'll get the lion a parachute. And as the lion grew, obviously the parachute had to be renewed, and they made, I believe, 3 or 5 of them to suit the size of the lion.
Roscoe Turner worked hard to maintain his glamorous, dashing image, and he worked just as hard on breaking speed records. Turner is the only 3-time winner of the Thompson Trophy race, a race named for Cleveland's Thompson Products Company, which we know today as TRW. Jimmy Doolittle was another star of the Cleveland National Air Races. He was known not for a flamboyant personality, but for flying a very unusual plane called the GB.
It was called the GB because it was built by the Granville brothers. They had this unique idea of the shape of a falling drop of water being aerodynamically pure. It was tested in a wind tunnel. However, the airplane was not easy to fly. It was considered that only 3 men in this country at that time could successfully fly that airplane. Jimmy went on to win the Shell Speed Dash that year and made quite a name for himself.
The National Air Races brought thrills and excitement into our lives. And just as important, they were a proving ground for American aviators, many of whom went on to help write a chapter in world history.
And these fellows built these airplanes, and they devised all kinds of things that were eventually used during the war. And many of these men went on to become test pilots and designers and help the war effort. Without the National Air Races, I seriously doubt if we would have had air supremacy in World War II as early as we did.
This is the biggest thing going in those days as far as aviation went. Yes, and it put Cleveland right at the center of it. And it was great for Cleveland. Great for the country. Great for me. I loved it.
Hi, this is Bob Fairmont, School Hope.
Hi, Bob. This is Gene Carroll in Cleveland.
No, what do you say, Gene? How's things in my old hometown?
Well, that's what I'm calling you about. How'd you like to come back to Cleveland and be on a nice TV show that I'm producing for Landmark Farm Bureau Cooperative? We're going to have some of your friends here and some surprises for you on TV.
No kidding. They got TV in Cleveland now?
No.
Do you remember where you were the day that television came to Cleveland? Think back to December 1947. That's when WVIZ TV signed on as the first television station in Ohio. The first program we were able to watch here in Northeast Ohio was a live broadcast of the annual Cleveland Press Christmas Show with special guest Jimmy Stewart. And that was only the beginning. As the years went by, we began to spend a good deal of time in front of the television set, watching many programs that were produced right here in Cleveland. We enjoyed good conversation with Dorothy Fuldheim on her 1 o'clock club. We tapped our feet in time to the music on polka variety. We got in shape with Paige Palmer. And we laughed along with our children at the antics of Captain Penny and his sidekick, Jungle Larry. But there was a time not so very long ago when entertainment meant more than settling down for the evening in front of a television set. In the days before TV, we used to hit the town when the sun went down to enjoy swinging music and big-name bands. Andy Anderson is an 85-year-old tenor saxophonist who grew up in Cleveland and performed at many of the city's nightclubs in the 1930s. He remembers a time when Cleveland came alive after dark as we dressed up in our best clothes and headed downtown to where the action was.
You had dance halls, theaters, and radio shows, and nightclubs. Well, then you had big bands then traveling. So maybe Duke Ellington may be here tonight. You know, then maybe next week maybe have Fletcher Henderson.
Cleveland was a very large show town. We had clubs that we worked like Moe's Main Street. There was Corey's. There was the Bogart Club. There was the Cabin Club. And, of course, most people will remember Chin's Victory Room.
Ann Carroll worked as a dancer, singer, and MC at many of Cleveland's hot spots in the 1940s.
We had so many well-known people working these clubs, and I was lucky enough at a young age to work these places with a lot of well-known people. And then there was the World War II, where we had the Stage Door Canteen, and we had people like Artie Shaw, Dolores and Bob Hope come and perform, and they were so very gracious to us beginners in the business. The theaters, Palace Theater, you would go in at 8:30 in the morning, and you'd rehearse. Now, the bill consisted of maybe 20 acts, and there was maybe a 25-piece band. Well, each performer would take one musician, and at the same time, on the same stage, we all rehearsed. You closed your ears to whatever else anybody else was doing. And at 11:30, the theater opened, and you started your first show. You had a show for you did your live show for about an hour, and then they would have a movie. So you never could be away from the theater more than an hour, okay? So you worked from 11:30 in the morning till maybe midnight.
When performers got off work late at night and wanted a place to relax and unwind, they'd head over to Val's to hear jazz great Art Tatum work his magic on the piano. Val's was a tiny club tucked away behind two storefronts at East 86th and Cedar.
But Art liked it back there. And when Art's in town, everybody in town would come and hear him. And word get around, and the people in the theater say, I don't care what show, it's the Hanna Theater, Hippodrome, Art's in town, let's go to Val's, okay. And you couldn't get in Val's. People would be lined up all over to hear him play.
Another popular gathering place was the Short Vincent, an alley off of East 9th Street downtown that was lined with restaurants and clubs.
I never worked that area because you had to mix. Mixing was sitting with customers and drinking. And my parents were so opposed to me performing, going into a club performing, so I kind of stayed away from stuff like that. But it was, Short Vincent was alive. Come 7 o'clock at night. It was live until clubs closed at 2:30 in the morning.
Short Vincent was perhaps best known as the home of the Roxy, one of the leading burlesque houses in the nation.
The Roxy produced many of the leading people in the movies today and years ago, such as Bob Hope, the Burns and Allen, Three Stooges. All of them started with burlesque. And I feel burlesque was an asset to Cleveland because it drew the people.
Yes, live entertainment for every taste abounded here in Cleveland not so very long ago. And we didn't have to go to a nightclub to catch a live act. Many times we were treated to vaudeville shows, comics, or dancers when we went to one of the grand old movie houses, like the Palace, Keith's 105th, the Hippodrome, and many others.
I remember going down to the Palace and seeing Gene Krupa in a live band, right, a vaudeville right on the stage. And but they great big staircases that went up and very ornate, beautiful, great big huge chandeliers in the middle, just like the old Palace, the old State Theater.
The downtown theaters were lavish temples of cinema. But when we were kids, the place to be on a Saturday afternoon was the neighborhood movie house.
The matinee on Saturday was a big attraction for young people. It may have only cost a dime at the time, but every week we'd come. And one of the things that brought us back was not only the feature movie, but there was a serial. And the serial would go on week after week after week, and invariably had a way of ending with the hero or the heroine in a very critical situation. Either they're about to be pushed off a running train in the middle of, or run over by a train or whatever, and then so you want to come back the following week. And then during the intermission, after the main feature was over, there would be projections on the screen of various songs. And there'd be a bouncing ball that accompanied the lyrics of it. The audience would know exactly how to sing the song, whether it's Home on the Range, or I've been working on the railroad. So those of us who didn't know the exact spot could just follow the bouncing ball on the screen. So going to the movies on a Saturday was quite an event.
And of course, you had your dish night at that time, where they give away dishes, and they gave away money.
My parents would go and they'd get like combs and brushes and dishes and everything. I remember the time my father went and won a live turkey.
He came home and he took it into the basement to kill it, and the head, it was running around without the head and blood. Oh, all right.
We used to, in high school, if you had higher grades, they'd let you out to go to the neighborhood and you'd collect their iron, tin cans, and all kinds. Yeah, and I said to my mother, somebody put in a new fry pan, one of those iron ones. I said, how is that?
Oh, the war. Well, we had the rationing.
We used to paint our legs. Remember? Because we couldn't get
back. Yes, right. Makeup would drip down your legs. You couldn't crack your legs because it was fire.
People didn't have cameras the way they have now, and so you waited until the photographer came through the neighborhood, usually with a pony. Remember that? He'd take pictures. Well, he came through our neighborhood, and I had the mumps. But Mother said, it's now or never, so I had my picture taken with mumps, but we did have a photograph, because that happened like once a year.
Yeah. Right.
That brings back memories.
Cleveland Memories will return with visits to Euclid Beach, the old ballrooms, and much more. For now, take this opportunity to support programs like this on WVIZ TV. Call now with your pledge of financial support.
Boy, what wonderful memories. And aren't the people, Julie, who you talked to, all sitting around the card table, they're having a wonderful time reminiscing?
Boy, they were. All of the people from the Tri-City Senior Center in Middleburg Heights, they were so wonderful sharing those memories with us. And that's what this program is all about. It's supposed to be the feeling of sit around and talking with your friends and talking about some of the good old days in Cleveland. A lot of people talked about the dish giveaway nights that we saw about in this segment. And then one person had a very interesting story. We didn't make it into the show because there's only so much that we can put in, and that's why we really need to do more. But she was talking about when they were collecting the iron and the pots and pans during World War II. She had a light in her bedroom that had an iron chain link thing on it that the lamp hung from, and she said she could get a free movie ticket for one of those links. And so all through the summer, her dad would take off one link and one link and one link, and then finally it was gone, and that was the end of it. But she got to go to the movies for free all summer. Just wonderful memories that people had.
While you were working on the show, Julie, one of WVIZ's major donors was here, and he was back in the editing room watching it, and he was just nodding his head. He would say, well, I remember this, and then 2 minutes later the program would bring that up. And there's still more to come. It's not over. Go to your telephone right now, though, during this intermission, and pledge $90 and get the videotape so you can have this. I mean, you're going to have someone come over to your house at some point, and you're going to say, hey, I've got to show you this tape. Remember these old days, and it just starts conversations. It's kind of like our own Trivial Pursuit game, that by watching the program, you automatically start remembering these stories and other stories that were so much a part of your life. WVIZ wants to be a part of your life, and right now we can be a part of your life if just more people in this community band together to help make good television possible. You know, how often have you said, there's nothing to watch on TV tonight? And yet if you just tune into WVIZ, you will find out that Channel 25 delivers to you an outstanding array of quality programming. Now, we're not saying that you should watch WVIZ day in and day out. I mean, if you want to, that's terrific. But many people may pick out 3 or 4 or 5 programs a week, and that's all. But those programs are so special that they become so much a part of your life and add to the quality of your life that they need your support to make them possible. So rush off to your telephone right now. Give one of our great friends from Mally's Candies your pledge of support right now. They've given up their night to take your pledges. They want to be part of the station. They want you to be part of the station also tonight.
Well, remember, there's so much more coming up. We're going to talk about the old ballrooms. Remember when you used to go out and dance until midnight or 1 in the morning and then take the streetcar home? Or how about Purity Springs Park and Luna Park and Euclid Beach? Segments about that are coming up, as well as the old lake steamers, the DNC, the C&B, all kinds of great memories coming your way. I have. You know what's nice about the program? I don't remember these things because I grew up in Toledo, but just listening to people's stories, it was so fascinating. And what's nice is you don't have to remember all of these things to enjoy it. In fact, one of the people who called during the last break said that their 9-year-old grandson was staying over, and he was fascinated watching these stories, asking questions about, did they really have to bring ice to your house? So many people also told me, in addition to the ice boxes, remember when you had to put the milk outside in the little window box in the wintertime to keep some of the food cold in the winter, and then the milk would freeze and the top would be exploding off the bottle? That was another memory that people had. So many people responded to the Cleveland Memories program. It truly is a community event. It's a community program, the kind of thing that public television and WVIZ does so well. Remember, public television is a partnership. It's you in the community, and it's us here at WVIZ responding to your needs and your wants. But the way that WVIZ has the dollars to do that is through pledge drives just like this, is through membership support. Right. And remember, tonight, it's really great when you call and pledge $90 to WVIZ. You'll receive the videotape of the program that you're enjoying tonight. $120, just an extra $30, will bring you 2 of those videotapes so you can share one with a friend, maybe who lives far away. And everybody who pledges $35 or more, in addition to the regular thank you gift, you're also going to receive 4 tickets to go to Trolleyville, USA, and ride one of those old streetcars with those bouncy rattan seats, and remember the old coal stoves, remember how you used to ride on the streetcars, and share it with your children or your grandchildren.
Memories that's going to bring back.
It's a wonderful
just walking
place.
onto the trolley brings back memories all by itself, and you didn't even know they were still out there, did you? Well, they're there and restored into a wonderful museum.
They sure are. So call right now with your pledges of support. As we were talking about, so many people responded, and there are so many stories about Cleveland that we could do a second Cleveland Memories, a third, a fourth, a fifth. The only thing holding us back is the dollars to produce the programs, and that's where you come into the picture. Remember, pledge dollars, your dollars right now, are WVIZ's single largest source of funding. Thanks to the current members of WVIZ, we were able to go out and produce this program for you tonight. And if you want to see more programs just like this, call now with that pledge of support to WVIZ. Help make more programs like this possible with your pledge dollars. We're going to be going back to see the last segment of this program in just a few minutes, but there's plenty of time for you to get involved with your membership support to WVIZ.
Basista Furniture, Michael's the Arts and Crafts Store, and A. Able Rents have teamed up to help WVIZ design and decorate its pledge set. Join with us in thanking them for their continued support of WVIZ. Their partnership allows Channel 25 to put your membership dollars to work purchasing the programs that you depend upon. Basista Furniture, Michael's, the Arts and Crafts Store, and A. Able Rents, helping WVIZ make the difference for you.
That just seems strange. Oops, hello there. We're watching all the telephones ring and getting all excited about people calling and pledging and wanting multiple tapes. Call in and keep the telephone ringing. I'm sorry, I'm over into the pink light. I've got to stay over here in the white light. You know, when you call and become a member of WVIZ at the $35 level on up, we're going to send you a year's subscription to Avenues Magazine. Now, Avenues Magazine is a terrific city magazine that deals with all the great things happening here in northeastern Ohio. But we're also going to send you the Channel 25 program guide, because you find that right in the back of Avenues Magazine, where page after page is devoted exclusively to public television programming. So this is going to come to you with that pledge that you make. When you pledge $90 to WVIZ, remember you're going to get the videotape. Remember, $120 will bring you 2 videotapes. You'll also get Avenues Magazine. It includes the Channel 25 program guide. You'll also get the Plus card for WVIZ, which offers you discounts on things happening around northeastern Ohio, including discounts out at WVIZ Store of Knowledge. You'll also get the tickets to Trolleyville. And if you charge your pledge on your MasterCard, your Visa, your Discover card, or one of those new check debit cards, if you have one of those, we're also going to send you, let's do it this way, a $10 certificate to WVIZ Store of Knowledge. Now, this can be used on anything you want to use it on. If you want to buy something for $5 or $6 or $7 or $8, that's fine. You don't have to put in any more money. If you want to apply this to something worth more than $10, that's okay also. It's just a gift certificate worth $10 at WVIZ Store of Knowledge. And the reason we send you that is because charging your pledge is easy on WVIZ. There's a lot of processing that goes on. If you don't want to charge, that's okay. But the reason we give you something extra if you do charge is it makes it simple. When you send in a regular membership, we have to write down the information, send you a pledge form in the mail. You have to write a check. You have to buy a stamp. You have to walk to the mailbox on a cold winter evening. Then you have to mail it back. Then we have to process it on this end. We don't mind doing that, but the process gets a whole lot easier if you charge your pledge, because we can get your number, get you right into the system, put you on the files, and you become a member almost instantly. So if you charge your pledge with that little extra thank you gift, is our way of saying thank you for charging that pledge. And what a great item it is, because Store of Knowledge has over 5,000 items, all designed to extend the WVIZ's lifelong learning. Things out there on science, on nature, things for preschoolers, things for people in grade school. We have things on music, on history, on self-help, on cooking, on gardening. You name it, it's at WVIZ Store of Knowledge. You're going to love the store when you get out there. So we'll be happy to send that to you as our way of saying thank you. But the most important thing is to get the phones ringing. I see that there's a telephone available right there. There's a telephone available right here. So there are a couple of phones available. Go to your telephone right now and get involved in the station that's making the difference for you. Let's go back over to Julie.
Well, and keep calling it. Several times all the phones have been off the hook. When Kent was talking, I was over there watching him, but there are a couple of phones available right now. And don't worry, you won't miss a minute of Cleveland Memories. We'll be going back to part 3 in just a couple of minutes, but there's still time for you to call in and help make more programs like this possible. You know, as we've said, there have been so many memories and so many wonderful stories that I've been privileged to hear from people that we could do more programs just like this one. But we can only do it with pledge dollars. Your support is what makes programs just like this one possible. And think about it. This isn't the kind of program that you're necessarily going to find on commercial television, because as much as you're enjoying this program tonight, and as many of you who are watching tonight, really, by commercial broadcasting standards, the audience is not large enough to attract commercial advertisers. But that's all right, because WVIZ doesn't care about commercial advertisers. WVIZ cares about serving your needs, cares about bringing you the kinds of programs that you want to see. So if you want to see more programs like this, if this is bringing back wonderful memories, help make more programs like this one possible. Help WVIZ have the money needed to produce a Cleveland Memories Part 2 and Part 3 and Part 4. It can all happen with your pledges of support right now to WVIZ. And remember, your $90 pledge will bring you the VHS copy of the program that you're watching tonight. And what a bargain. Add $30 to that, $120, you'll receive 2 VHS tapes, so you can share one with a friend or a family member, maybe who lives far away. And remember, all pledges of $35 or more, in addition to your thank you gift, in addition to the videotape, you're also going to receive 4 tickets to visit Trolleyville, USA, out in Olmsted Township, to ride one of those wonderful old trolley cars. Share the experience of riding the trolleys, maybe with your children or your grandchildren, or get a couple friends together and head out there and enjoy that. Think of all the benefits that you get right now when you become a member of WVIZ. You get the programming. That's the first and most important thing. But you get the videotape of the program. You receive Avenues Magazine every month for a full year. If you charge that pledge on your Visa, MasterCard, Discover card, or your check debit card, you also receive that $10 gift certificate to the WVIZ Store of Knowledge. And you receive those 4 free tickets to visit Trolleyville, USA. So much comes your way when you become a member of WVIZ, and the most important thing that comes your way, the reason you're calling right now, is to make programs just like Cleveland Memories possible. I want to personally thank each and every person who has called in tonight, and I also want to thank everybody who called in, who got involved in this wonderful community project, this community program. Right now, you can get involved by calling with your pledge of support to WVIZ. And Ken, how are things going over there?
Julie, things are going great. 2 pieces of housekeeping. Somebody said, Kent, you didn't say where WVIZ Store of Knowledge is. It's at the brand new South Park Center out in Strongsville, right off of I-71. You take I-71 to the Route 82 exit and get off, and the mall sits right there. You can't miss it. So it's really convenient from all over town. If you're coming from the east side, come across 480 and go down 71 south. If you're coming from the west side, you already know where South Park Center is, I imagine. It's a great new mall, and you're going to love WVIZ Store of Knowledge. Secondly, people called and said, are you ever going to show this program again? Well, only on public television would this happen. We have another segment in this program still to go, and when that's over, we're going to re-rack the tape, and right tonight, we're going to show you the program again. So if you know anybody who hasn't seen it, start calling them on the telephone, telling them, turn on WVIZ, you're going to find some great television, or maybe you tuned in late tonight and you're sorry that you missed part of it. We're going to show the next segment, the third and final segment of the program. We're going to re-rack the tape. We're going to show the whole thing over again tonight. That's what public television can do. So we're going to celebrate with WVIZ tonight as you call and make your pledges of support to make great programming possible. You know, WVIZ has been around this community for over 30 years, influencing the lives of everyone from preschoolers with great preschool programming to older folks with great programming that helps you. Maybe you're lonely, maybe you can't get out at home anymore, and public television has become one of your major friends that you have with you each and every day. Public television is here to serve the lives of everyone with great quality programming. Only here on public television can this kind of programming be made possible for one big reason. Commercial television, and they do a great job of what they do, but is in the business of delivering audiences to advertisers. They get as many audiences, as large a viewership as they can, and deliver that audience to an advertiser. That's what they should do. There's commercial television. They're responsible to their shareholders and their stakeholders. But public television is different. It's called public because all we do is deliver programs to viewers, and that's you. And we ask you, if you appreciate the programming that we have on the air, that you join with WVIZ by becoming a member of the station during membership campaigns such as this one. 3 times a year, we take the opportunity to take a week or so to ask for your support. And during that time, we need to gather as many members as we can to keep the programs going strong. So go to your telephone right now and give us a call, just like Mary Blaylock of Chagrin Falls did, like Laverne Borling of Litchfield did. We've got some right here. We got Shirley Loxman of Concord. She called in. Karen Shepard of Brunswick called in her pledge. Robert Worley of Ashland has called in pledge. Bruce Higley of Shaker Heights. Nastasia McCullough of Mayfield Heights called in a pledge. William Carter of Elyria said, I want one of those tapes. Douglas Wise of Chagrin Falls. People calling in from all over northeastern Ohio. I could just pick up pledges everywhere and find incredible support from people right here in northeastern Ohio making great programming possible. We need you to go to your telephone right now and give WVIZ a call and make sure that we can continue to make quality programming possible. Let's go back over to Julie over in the WVIZ Pledge Living Room. Julie?
Well, and if you got a busy signal, there are some phones available right now, so call back. We'll be going back to see the final segment of Cleveland Memories in just a couple of minutes, but there's still time for you to call in. And remember, as Kent said, we're going to turn this thing around now, and we'll play the first, second, and third segments all over again, thanks to your wonderful response tonight. Thank you if you've called in, and I also want to say thanks to Bill Meixner and to Frank Nelson, the air race historians who shared those wonderful stories with you. Thanks to Janine Trainer. I want to thank Sid Friedman, who got involved with this project, all the great folks at the Fairview, Kiwanis Club, the Tri-City Senior Center, some people at the City Club of Cleveland got involved with this program. It really is a community project.
Sounds like a partnership.
It really is a partnership between WVIZ and the community. And you know, Ken, as I said before, so many people called in, we didn't even get back to everybody, but we took everybody's names and phone numbers, and if we can raise enough dollars through the membership drive, then we'll be able to call people back and even start doing more Cleveland Memories
You know,
shows.
in some communities, like the Pittsburgh community, I think they've done something like 9 programs. Some have been just on, like this program, Cleveland Memories. Some have been specific on architecture, buildings that people remember that maybe have been knocked down and aren't there anymore. There have been cafes they did a program on, all the great cafes that people used to go to all the time in the mornings or maybe out to dinner with that aren't there anymore, restaurants. So
Well,
there's a lot of
we only
possibilities.
had 60 minutes. I mean, people talked about their favorite restaurants. People talked about so many things, and we could only fit so much of it into a 1-hour show, and there really is so much information here in Cleveland that we could do a whole series of them if we've got the dollars that we need to do it.
And there's much, much more coming your way right now. And remember, when we get over with this segment, we're going to re-rack the tapes, and we're going to bring you back the whole program again. So call your friends, call your neighbors, let people know that this incredible program is on here on WVIZ tonight.
Well, what do you think, Ken? Should we go back and see part 3?
I think so. It's been such a delightful evening. Keep the telephones ringing. If you called and got a busy signal, keep calling in. It's real important that you give us a call tonight. You're going to want to have one of these videotapes. As I say, you won't be able to find them in video stores, so don't call Blockbuster in the morning saying, I want that Cleveland Memories. It doesn't exist there. The only way you can get it is here on WVIZ. You can't get it in boxes of Breeze. Remember those old days?
That's right. I heard about those, too. Call right now and help make more programs like this one possible.
We'll see you in a little bit.
If you prefer, mail your pledge to WVIZ, 4300 Brook Park Road, Cleveland 44134.
We're here to offer you some nice music for dancing, for singing along, and having a really nice time together this afternoon. We start off with Glenn Miller's Serenade in Blue.
I find it very pleasant to come out here to Tri-Center and dance with all these wonderful people. And of course, it's pretty tough when you have a 20-year-old mind locked up in an 80-year-old body. But these people are very gracious people, and they're very good dancers, and it brings back many memories of our past. We've pretty much all experienced the same things, the same kind of dancing in the 40s and sometimes in the 30s.
We sure did a lot of dancing. We danced every dance. And never too tired to get up and go to work the next day.
We had Dance Land up on Euclid, which was great. We had the Trinon Ballroom, which was great. Well, the Trinon was done very pretty. It had elevated sections there for the seating and for the drinks you could provide and so forth. And you could look down on the dancers. It was very pretty. It was a large ballroom.
Euclid Beach was one of the most prevalent and prominent dance halls at that time. And I'm sure almost everyone here at Tri-Center remembers Euclid Beach dance floor because it was one of the finest dance floors in the entire nation, believe that or not. And the floor, when it was refinished, was absolutely flat. And it was well preserved. They polished it and they waxed it. And I can kid you not, if you didn't have good balance, you were going to fall on that floor. They even cautioned you about that. But it was a very, very beautiful dance floor. And when it was torn down, it just broke everybody's heart. Aragon was another wonderful, wonderful dance area where everybody could meet someone for their style of dancing. And you could always have a good time. And the dress code was enforced very strictly. You had to have a dress jacket, and you must behave yourself in a gentlemanly fashion, or they just take you out of there. That's all there was to it. There was no two ways down the street.
In fact, you couldn't go in. They had ties as an extra at the Aragon if you didn't have a tie when you came in.
And would you believe we danced to Lawrence Welk when he was just an unknown? And also Pat Boone was there. They were both unknown. Of course, my two girlfriends, they would never miss Lawrence Welk. Of course, at that time, you know, the music was just super.
And we all got dressed up in long dresses and high-heel shoes, and, well, we just had a ball.
I used to live 5 houses away from it, and I'd sit on the porch and in the summertime, and the ladies would come down the street wearing their formals, and I used to look forward to becoming old. And then in the summertime, they didn't have air conditioning back then, and my father made my brother and me each a pair of stilts, and there was an alley behind the Aragon, and we used to stand there and peer in, and the heat would just be overpowering, you know, all the cologne coming at you, and then I remember one time the custodian kicked me out because I snuck in with roller skates.
I remember going to the Aragon when I was single. They didn't serve alcoholic beverages, especially on Sunday. They didn't even serve beer. They would have snacks. They would have drinks. and they would have dancing. You would dance the evening. It would be like maybe 8 until 11, and then after that, people would go out and have coffee. If you had a date, then your date continued. But it was nice because you didn't have to have a partner. You could go with a group of girls, or the guys would. Matter of fact, that's how I met my husband. I was at a dance in 1948. The skirts were down to here, okay? And I was wearing a red crepe dress, and it rained. And, of course, the skirt went all the way up to here, and I was standing, hoping that it would dry. And standing behind girls and other women, you know, so that nobody would ask me to dance. And my husband pointed me out and said, would you like to dance?
We danced every dance, and usually we came there by streetcar, and they also had to go home by streetcar. And sometime we missed the last streetcar, and then we had to walk home for 2 miles. We weren't afraid to walk home those 2 miles years ago. It'd be like 1 o'clock in the morning, and thought nothing of walking those 2 miles. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't make a lot of money, but it was a wonderful time. I wouldn't have missed those times for anything.
My grandmother lived in Toledo, so I'd go up there and stay with her maybe during the summer. If I wanted to stay any longer, I would. Didn't make any difference, so I'd get on my bicycle and ride down to 9th Street and catch the boat, and it would leave at 8:30. And go to Toledo, stop and put Cedar Point, 10 o'clock, about 12:30, and then to go to Putin Bay, get to about 2, leave about 4. Then go on in Toledo and dock at 8:30 that night. I get off my bicycle, ride to my grandmother's house and stay.
I had one trip. It was on one of the old D&C boats, and it was an overnight, well, 2 nights on the boat. When we left here at Cleveland, we got on it in the evening and left here at 11 o'clock. We got off at Detroit in the morning, and we had breakfast before we left the boat. We had lunch at the Dearborn Inn. We had dinner at the Book Cadillac Hotel. We went sightseeing at Greenfield Village and Belle Isle, and I don't know what else. And got back on the boat that night, came back the next morning, had breakfast the next morning. It was $11.75. The whole thing was unbelievable. I just love the boats, and I wish to goodness that somebody would bring one back.
Is it a girls' show? No, though it presents artistically, to be sure, 500 of the most glamorous aquafemmes on which the eyes have ever feasted. Is it a water show? No, though it stars Johnny Tarzan Weissmuller, Eleanor Holm, and 100, count 'em, 100 beautiful aquabelles. What is it? It's Billy Rose's Aquacade, the newest thing in American entertainment. He'll tell your grandchildren about it someday.
Do these words ring a bell? Well, they should, if you were one of the tens of thousands of lucky Clevelanders who visited the Great Lakes Exposition of 1936 and 1937. The colorful description you just heard comes straight from an advertisement for Billy Rose's Aquacade. This star-studded water extravaganza was billed as a touch of Broadway on Lake Erie, and rightfully so, since it was put together by Broadway producer Billy Rose. So who were the glamorous aquabelles who wowed us with their water stunts? Well, one of them was a high school kid from Lakewood. Her name is Jane Thies.
We started out trying out at Lakewood High School pool, you know. I didn't even know how to dive in the water. But I just wanted to do it, and I did it. We had a little dance routine we did on the stage, and then we would walk down in fours and go into the water and start doing all the designs. The whole stage moved back, see, and at the start of the show, it would be close up to where the people are sitting, and then it would move back, and we would just have that big space there to do the show. And it was the lake, and it was choppy sometimes. One night it was really choppy, and in fact, some of the men came out, the directors and so forth. They were worried about some of us, because it was pretty hard to swim. But we did it. The water was more or less closed off where the bandstand was on one end, and they would throw barrels and barrels of chlorine. Of course, it was nice, but it was just a drop in the bucket. We used to go in groups, and we'd go over to the streets of the world and have some grapefruit wine sometimes. It was a wonderful time. It was like magic for me, It was like you'd gone to Hollywood,
Billy Rose's Aquacade was a big hit. And after the Great Lakes Exposition closed in 1937, the term Aquacade, which Rose had coined to mean water show, was even added to the dictionary.
But it was a wonderful experience, and I'm glad I did it. And I think about it a lot.
The sound of calliope music drifting through the air, the smell of fresh popcorn, the thrill of flying down that first big hill on the roller coaster. Remember when the perfect summer day consisted of hopping on the neighborhood streetcar and heading off to the amusement park?
Spirit of Springs Park brings a lot of memories. One of the things about that famous roller coaster was that one part of the coaster went down into the valley. And at night, when you took that ride, I don't think there's another ride anyplace that it's just like falling into an empty pit and you can't see the bottom. And I'll tell you, there's nothing scarier than that. So that was a good place to take a date because you always had her undivided attention after that.
Purida Springs Park overlooked the Rocky River Valley on the west side of town and was perhaps best known for its Cyclone roller coaster. The Cyclone was the highest and fastest coaster in Cleveland. Its death-defying drop into the valley wasn't for the faint of heart, but there were plenty of other tamer pleasures awaiting visitors to Purida Springs.
Sometimes on a Sunday, my father would buy a quarter Sunday pass, take me out to Purida Springs. Now, my parents were Depression people. I was born at the tail end, so money was still a little tight, and we'd get a quarter. And it was, what do I want to do with my quarter? I could ride the merry-go-round for a nickel, get a candy apple maybe for 15 cents, and then I still had a nickel for popcorn to go home.
Luna Park was another favorite destination for outings in the 1920s and 1930s. Sitting high on a hill out near East 110th Street, Luna Park boasted exotic architecture along with its water rides, Ferris wheels, and roller coasters. There was even a photographer there who would take your picture and turn it into a postcard to send to your friends. Yes, Cleveland was home to several fantastic amusement parks. But the granddaddy of them all has to be Euclid Beach Park. Although the park closed on September 28, 1969, its memory has been kept alive by a loyal group of enthusiasts who call themselves the Euclid Beach Park Nuts. Every year, the Nuts gather together to display their memorabilia and share stories about what made Euclid Beach so special.
I think part of it was the fact that it was on the lake, and you could watch the beautiful sunsets, the smells of the popcorn balls, and the vinegar smells of the kisses being made, and the people. I mean, it was a place where you could sit down, and you could see people moving about, and people weren't concerned about where their children were, because it was a safe place to be.
My favorite ride was the Thriller. The front seat, chugging up to the top with your arms up in the air and dropping over that first big hill and screaming all the way down. And if you could do that, you were a champion.
The ride I think I enjoyed the most was the flying turns, even though I worked on a racing coaster. But it gave you such a fantastic feeling of speed, even though it only traveled about 28 miles an hour. but being enclosed in a barrel really made you feel like you were doing about 90.
And, of course, the candy kisses and the Humphrey popcorn balls and the frozen custard, which to this day cannot be duplicated. Because Humphrey's had, I don't know, a special way of making that stuff. And everybody in their families would say, oh, look, we're going to get a frozen custard. And it was so inviting. It was so great just to think that they were going to get one of these ice cream cones with frozen custard in it.
It was a family affair because aunts and uncles and grandfathers and grandmothers could come out because they didn't pay anything. Now, what were they doing? Well, if Grandpa hated an amusement park, he could always go out on that wonderfully long pier and fish all day long. And if he brought his own bait, it didn't cost him a dime.
If there's one person who knows Euclid Beach Park better than anyone else, it's probably David Humphrey Scott. He's one of the founders of the Euclid Beach Park Nuts, and he literally grew up at Euclid Beach.
Well, my father was in charge of maintenance from the Humphrey operation 1901 until his death in 1938. I was very fortunate. I was born at the west end of the park, inside the confines, and I was a very spoiled childhood. I never bought a popcorn ball or a candy kiss, never paid to get on a ride either, so you know what a terrible childhood I had. There were about 40 families that lived in the park whose parents worked employees. And there were large families, so there were a lot of children. And we couldn't wait for you folks to go home because now we had the world's largest jungle gym. I'm riding roller coaster wagons and sleds down the flying turns, thinking nothing of it. We played hide and go seek and tag on these rides. I could cover the whole park. Never put my feet on the ground. My favorite food, of course, was popcorn. Although in the early years they did have candy kisses, and the hot dogs were wonderful. As I got older, their coffee was specially brewed. The beans were picked and roasted just to the way the Humphreys wanted them. They went to a lot of care for a lot of things. People would drive out of their way for a cup of coffee. As a matter of fact, one of the funny stories is that the coffee was always served in heavy mugs, and people would love to collect them. But they would come out to the park, and they get one of these heavy mugs. Coffee was a nickel. And they get one of these heavy mugs, and, oh, boy, I'd like to have that at home. And they'd pick it up, and they'd drink their coffee, and, oh, this one's chipped. So, well, I'll buy a cup of coffee later. They'd go buy another cup of coffee later that afternoon, and go, oh, this one's chipped, too. So maybe they'd buy a third or fourth cup of coffee. Well, really, the fact was that when the Humphreys bought these mugs, they always opened the cases upside down, and a man stood there with a hammer knocking chips in the bottom of each cup.
Like all of us, David Humphrey Scott has vivid memories of this lady, Laughing Sal, whose boisterous giggles greeted visitors at the main entrance to the Euclid Beach Funhouse.
Laughing Sal was put in, and the laugh track was purchased by the Humphrey Company, and the reason I make the point purchased is because we have heard from two different sources that the laugh track for Laughing Sal was produced by getting an opera singer stone drunk and then telling her dirty stories. Now, that's not a Humphrey operation, so I point out that they bought the laugh track. It was either a love-hate relationship. You either loved the laugh or you just absolutely were bored out of your gourd with it. I still feel terrible that it had to close. And I'll be honest with you, it took me over 10 years to learn how to drive down Lakeshore Boulevard. I used to actually drive out of my way to avoid it if I was in that area because it was my home.
Even though Euclid Beach closed in 1969, which is like 27 years ago, people that went to it was such a unique place, just can't get the memories of the park out of their minds. I know I can't.
You felt like you belonged to a family, and it was safe, and you were secure. And your mother always knew where you were. If you were at Euclid Beach, you were safe. And you still feel safe when you think about Euclid Beach. It just becomes a part of you, no matter how old you get. I have brothers and sisters all across the United States, and they still feel Euclid Beach. You just feel it in your heart. It's still alive. It's never died. It's never closed. It's open.
Looking back on the good old days, we remember so many things that just aren't around anymore. And sometimes the things we miss most are not places or events, but feelings and attitudes.
We did a lot of things with our parents. Our parents were our role models.
Mealtime, you sat down, whether your husband came home at 4 o'clock or 10 o'clock, you sat down and waited for Dad to come home and have dinner, and you had good conversation, and he knew what the children did all day, and we knew what he did. It was different.
Well, we certainly knew our neighbors because very few of us, even after we got up eligible for driving a car, had automobiles, so there wasn't that mobility, and second of all, we couldn't afford a car.
They were kinder times. People helped each other. Like, for instance, in my own neighborhood, I know very few people. People migrate, but they were stable communities in those days, and you knew everybody. Everybody knew everybody's business. I don't know if people would like that today, but anyway, that's the way it was then.
And that's the way it was. What wonderful memories. And there are so many more that WVIZ would like to bring your way. All we need is your calls and your pledges to make great television possible here at WVIZ. And by the way, don't go away. In just a few minutes, we're going to re-rack this tape. We're going to show you the program again because so many people tuned in late and missed part of it, called friends. It's been such an exciting night here in the studios of WVIZ tonight that we're going to bring you the program back again. But right now, we'd like you to go to your telephone and let WVIZ know whether or not you appreciate this program, whether or not you think that programs like this should be on the air here in northeastern Ohio, and more importantly, whether or not you're willing to help make them possible. Because here at WVIZ, it's public television, not commercial television where commercials pay the bill, but public televisions where the public comes together and makes this kind of great TV possible. Won't you join with WVIZ? I'm sure that this brought back so many memories. If you're sitting watching with someone tonight, I'm sure during the whole show you've been saying, remember when that happened? Remember when it was like that? Remember when we did this? Remember when we used to dance the night away at the Aragon? All these wonderful memories that Julie helped put together. Julie, thank you. It's been a great show.
Oh, it's been a wonderful project. It's been so interesting and so wonderful just to go out and to talk to all of the people. When I would talk to people about their memories, how their faces would light up, and people really enjoyed sharing the stories of Cleveland. And you know, Kent, there are so many wonderful things about our city today, but it's also nice to look back and just take a look at the way things were. It's almost really a piece of oral history coming to you tonight.
Is. And something that no one has done before until WVIZ sat down to do it. And you know why? Because as great as this program is, we'll see tomorrow when we see how many people are watching it, that it was a very small audience, an audience that commercial television wouldn't have cared about. But that's the joy, that public television doesn't worry about the size of the audience. All that we do is bring to you programs that you find interesting. And the phones have been ringing off the hook. It's been one of the best membership nights that we've had at WVIZ in a long, long time. And we're going to continue it because, as we said, we're going to re-rack this program and we're going to start it all over again. You're going to get a chance to go back and see all the great memories, the trolleys, the steamers, the amusement parks, the dance halls, the theaters, all the great things that Julie captured by talking to people in northeastern Ohio about their memories of things that aren't there anymore.
Well, and it's really true, Kent. And remember, when you call right now and pledge $90, you can have a VHS copy of this program. And add $30 to that, pledge $120, we'll send you 2 VHS tapes so that you can share one with maybe a friend or a family member who lives farther away now. Now, this program I just got finished editing this right before Thanksgiving, so the tapes will be available after the first of the year. But if you wanted to give this to somebody for Christmas, maybe send them a Christmas card and say, hey, I've got a great tape called Cleveland Memories. It's on the way to you. The important thing is that you get involved right now to help make programs like this possible. As we've said throughout the evening tonight, this has truly been a community partnership. 3 months ago, there was absolutely nothing on tape. We were just sitting around talking about, let's do a program to celebrate the bicentennial. Let's go out and talk to people about their memories of Cleveland of the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. And then we put a promo on the air here on WVIZ, and so many of you responded saying, hey, I've got a piece of old film that maybe you can use, or I've got some old photographs that you can use, or I've got some memories that I'd love to share with you. Your response is what has made this program possible tonight. And there's so much material that we could do even more if we have the dollars to produce a Cleveland Memories Part 2 and Part 3. There's absolutely no a dearth of information. There are more wonderful stories out there, more wonderful pictures that we can share with you, but that's only if we have the money to produce this kind of programming. So go to the phone right now. We're going to be seeing part 1 of Cleveland Memories in just a few minutes. We're going to re-rack the tapes and bring it all to you again. But right now, there's time for you to call and help make programs like this one possible. Give us a call right now here at WVIZ.
Don't you just love the programs on WVIZ?
Oh, yes.
The variety, the depth, the breathtaking production.
Oh, yes, yes.
And it's all made possible by your pledge dollars.
Yes. My what?
Your pledge dollars, your membership to WVIZ.
But
Member dollars make up almost